right.
Here we are. Hello, Sister Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm good, Sister Liz, and we want to make sure everyone knows that they are listening to In the Company of Charity
The
podcast.
podcast
Oh,
of the Daughters of
charity. Why are we whispering that?
Charity. I was trying to get it in the same so we could say it at the same time, but it's
It
Zoom, so
it
it's always going to
it
be messed
never
up.
would. Why would you try that? It's like trying to sing together. Well, it would be bad anyways, but on Zoom. So this is it. We are it. We are the Daughters of Charity, and this is our podcast, and it's called In the Company of Charity. That's what you're listening to. And before we get to our incredibly awesome, if I do say so myself, interview with Sister Mary Louise Stubbs from the Daughters of Charity International Project Services, we would like to promote a special project that Sister Liz has at her ministry at Proyecto Juan Diego down in Brownsville, Texas. Tell us, Sister Liz, what you are planning and what you're going to do.
So there's there's a sister friend of mine who always talks about being awkward for the mission. And so in this case, I am sweating and running for the mission to raise money for Proyecto Juan Diego. Um, Less than 2 weeks at the time of this release, I will be running a full marathon, 26.2 miles and I won't be alone. Like there's other people, they're running different distances, but I'll be running a full marathon to raise money for Proyecto Juan Diego. If you would like to donate, you can still donate. And that would be awesome.
And
yeah,
how
you
would
can
they
just
do that? How would
yeah,
we do that, Sister?
the best way. So probably Google Sisters on the Run Proyecto Juan Diego. The
Okay,
Y,
everyone got that?
Proyecto.
Proyecto. Everybody got that? All right.
Yes,
We'll
write
make
it
sure the
down.
link is with the show notes. So,
And I'm going to have a lot of help getting across the finish line because our Jesuit friends who also have a podcast, it's called the Jesuit Border Podcast, actually promoted the run. They're going to run with me the second half, the 13.1 miles. And they mentioned it on their podcast and they
see,
put it in their email too. It was really
oh,
awesome.
that is sweet. So there's a lot of podcast crossovers, right? So we had the Jesuits on
Mm-hmm.
before. One of them's Brian, is a good friend of mine, Father Brian, and so yeah, I think it's just great that they are connected with our community. It's such a great thing. They had an episode not too long ago about the Eucharist in the border, where their
Mm-hmm.
interview was with the Bishop of El Paso, I believe, and
Yes.
but they also mentioned the Daughters of Charity across the border, who they work with for and help celebrate liturgy with them. So, yeah, there's a nice connection there. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just love that the sisters in Reynosa, Mexico, they're
Hmm.
working so hard, and the people there are struggling in a variety of ways. And our Jesuit friends go over there to help twice a week, which is so cool of them to do. And just raising that awareness of what's going on in people's lives and how we can help, whatever your political affiliation might be. There are people who are suffering on that side, and we're called to help with that humanitarian issue. And
Yeah.
so they're doing a lot of good. And so go listen to that. So this is like we're already giving you homework to do at the beginning.
That's right. That's right. And we're very proud and very excited for you, and I believe other Daughters of Charity around the country, around the province will be running. So, we often talk about working with the sweat of our brow and the strength of our arms. So you're going to be like the sweat of your brow and the strength of your legs, lungs, heart, your whole body, right? In a full
Yes.
marathon. But we referred to it to the episode that we did with the Jesuit Border podcast guys as well. And we should also mention that Sister Liz does have an affinity to runners, sometimes even extreme runners and marathoners. And if you want, you could scroll through our episodes from the last 4 seasons and see and listen
The
to
thread.
quite a few of her particular interest being woven throughout the seasons. So check that out, and you'll know why this is such an exciting event for her and for Proyecto Juan Diego, helping so many people in the Brownsville area. Yeah, so it's very exciting.
Exactly. And I often tell people that I feel like running is a spiritual experience. It strips away everything that's going on. You focus on your breath and movement, and that really connection with God. And it's not just for us. The reason we're praying, the reason we do these different practices is so that we can be better servants. And I think that really is exemplified in the episode that we're about to hear with Sister Mary Louise and International Project Services. Like, what a great way to put our faith into practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, what I love about it most is that it's the whole community, the whole company of the Daughters of Charity really working together. We talk a little bit about Frederick Ozanam's web of charity, that sense of the connectedness within the company of charity, that we live in, that we work in, that we've given our lives to, and to the service of the poor. So she'll talk more about what the Daughters of Charity International Project Services. It's a mouthful. We affectionately call it IPS. The work that they do is so not just helping in a kind of charitable way the sisters in other countries that don't have the resources, right? But really helping to train. It's all about helping to fortify, helping to train, helping to connect those who have with those who have so little, so that God's kingdom can find the balance here that we're all
Mm.
hoping for, that we'll find in the kingdom to come. So I just hope you enjoy it. I know you will. Sister Mary Louise Stubbs is a formidable woman, and she is delightful as well. And so she'll touch your heart, but she'll also challenge you a little bit in this as well. So I hope everyone enjoys.
Yes, and when you finish listening to this episode, do copy the link and send it to somebody that you think would appreciate it, and or post it on social media. Share it with other people, because this kind of work is really important, and we want all of our funds to go directly to projects that are really making a huge impact, dollar for dollar. So God bless you guys. Enjoy this episode, and we'll see you in the next one.
Run well, sister. Well, hi, everyone. This is Sister Elizabeth, and you are listening to In the Company of Charity. And I am here today in the company of Sister Mary Louise Stubbs, who is the Executive Director of the Daughter of Charity International Project Services. You may remember this if you're a faithful follower. June 4th, 2019, we interviewed Sister Mary Louise then, and she gave us some information about the Daughters of Charity International Project Services, when she's going to update us a little bit today, give us a little overview of the projects that are happening, and then we'll kind of see where we go from there. So, Sister Mary Louise, we welcome you back to the podcast, and I'm really looking forward to hearing how things are going.
Thanks, Sister Elizabeth. Things go well. The Daughters of Charity International Project Services is a service out of the main office of the Daughters of Charity in Paris. It's an international project, an international ministry. And the goal of the project is for the identification of those situations in low resource countries where the Daughters of Charity ministries need some kind of an assistance to get their ministry done. So that the local people, the local Daughters of Charity, are the ones that identify what are the problems, what are the issues, what are the solutions that they want to work forward to, and what do they need to be able to make those steps toward those solutions. Now, all of the countries that we work with are very low resource. They're developing or war torn, and have whole populations in severe poverty. And so they don't have what it needs to take those steps to be able to then do the ministry that's going to make the difference. So we become that bridge for them to begin to make some progress with their ministries. We raise funds for the projects that the sisters identify. Those projects come to us in an application with all of the information we would normally need. And it's approved by both the visitatrix and the treasurer of that province, because you can't just start a project if you don't have a coordinated plan, if it doesn't fit in with the plans of the province, and if it doesn't fit in with the plans of the overall community. And so there is a line of support all the way through, from the very grassroots through to the Superioress General through this project.
Well, thanks for that overview. It's good just to hear again that this project is really to help bridge the resources and the kind of brain power, as well as the resources that the Daughters of Charity have to help one another, because we're not out here just doing this on our own, right? We're really trying to
Absolutely.
work together, and that's such a beautiful. I've just always loved that concept of those who have the resources giving to those who may not, so that the poor can be served in ways that even those of us who have the resources couldn't do.
Oh,
So
no.
it's
And there's we have donors that say, I want to feed a child. And it is the money that the dollar that person would send to us is just as important in the process of feeding that child as is a spoonful of food on the other end, because the sister can't get the spoonful of food without the dollar to buy it.
yeah.
And so it's very, very much a part of it. And we have donors that have deep in their heart they want to work with education, and they'll help sponsor education projects. We have donors that are really big into healthcare and water and support for the healthcare that requires water and sanitation. And they feel they do own it. They dedicate some of these things to their family members, and get the little sign up on the school or on the hospital that says, yeah, this is something that is, I am now a part of. My family has supported this. And something else that is important is, as you said, it's not just the money. I mean, you can't just give people the money. What we help them do is build up the expertise that they need in order to do the project effectively. And I'll give you two examples of that. One is, as we work with hospitals and health facilities, and we do work with the Vatican on a big water and sanitation hygiene project. But as we work with them, what we've identified is we don't know enough, and the sisters don't know enough to do effective water systems. It takes water engineers. And we have an agreement with this fabulous group of water engineers, called Water Engineers for the Americas and for Africa. And they are looking for places where they can have a solid base to put in the water systems that they pro bono put in. And we are looking for water engineers to help us, so that there is no exchange of money. We help them to do what they want to get done. They help us to what we need to get done. And that partnership has made all the difference in the world. So it's very, very important that it's not only the money, it's the resourcing. And another way that we do that is with our applications, we have special attachments. So if someone wants to do a water project, they look at that attachment. It's got a checklist of the things that they need to be thinking of, the things they need to be looking at in order to do an effective, even application. So that it's a combination of teaching the sisters, providing them the support and expertise they need, and finding them the money to get it done. On their end, they got to design it, they got to do the work, and they got to report back. So this is not just an easy road for them. They take on a big responsibility. And then they're responsible for the people in the community, because the people in the community help design these things. And so it becomes a real team effort. And the people in the community, the village or farmland or wherever they are, get the community benefit component of that. So there's three things that happen on the local level. People help design it, they help build it, they get the community benefit out of it, and they continue to support it. It belongs to the community. It's delightful. It is
Yeah,
absolutely
it
delightful.
is. It's so beautiful. Every time we talk about it, every time we hear about it, I'm always just fascinated that that this is the kind of work that comes out of, I think, St. Vincent de Paul's energy around being inventive into infinity, right? That sense
Absolutely, absolutely.
of there are no boundaries, there are no barriers, there are no limits to how those who are vulnerable can be served. So it's not always just helping the poor, charity, or even justice issues, but that when those two combine, as you said, it's the desire of a donor or someone who has the resources to say, I want to see the end of this injustice. And combining that with someone who says, well, I have what it takes to make that happen. And
Mhm.
bringing those two things together is just so Vincentian in so many ways. And I think it really does live out that charism that we've been called to. And I think that it's a charism of the church, right? To make sure
Absolutely.
that those who have so little are helped.
It is total gospel. It is
Hmm.
total gospel in action.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And it doesn't,
beautiful.
yeah, it really is beautiful. It doesn't always go smoothly. There's a lot of work to it. We have glitches. You can imagine we got all these different wheels going in different languages, just in different cultures, and we're trying to coordinate with an engineer in the middle of a war zone, and you know, and everybody wants to see it done, so everybody digs in.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So can you tell us about some recent projects, some things that are in development now or some that you're hoping would be able to move forward?
One of the biggest things we've been working on is access to clean water and sanitation systems, in specifically in healthcare situations. And so we have a lot of projects going on that right now. We just finished one in Nigeria, St. Catherine's in Nigeria, that they had we had a donor that gave us all the money we needed to do this. And the sisters worked hard and they worked closely with the engineer, like I told you about. And they now have water and sanitation. We just finished a water project in India. We finished one in Mexico a couple of years ago. That's kind of been a model. So an awful lot in the area of water. One that I'd like to attach and expand on that is more access to electricity, to power. The power grid in so many of these countries is iffy, really iffy. And so if you're in any kind of situation where you've got computers or medical equipment running and you've got a bad power grid, you get a brownout and a burst of energy, you're going to burn out your equipment. So they need that consistency. There is a group called Electricians Without Borders that is working with Daughters of Charity in some of the African countries. And we were working on the other end, trying to line up with another group. And so we're connecting now. So we will be working with the group that's already been working with the Daughters of Charity in multiple countries. So that combines with the basic resources that you need to get anything else done. Doing an awful lot in that area that the Daughters picked out as a real area of priority a few years ago, and that is anti-slavery activity. We're doing a huge amount of work with anti-slavery for people that are displaced. The migrant trail is filled with wolves or coyotes or whatever, people that will steal people and use them for slavery, use them for undesired activities. The kids that are on the streets in areas of poverty, those kids are just taken over by whoever can put food in their mouths, whether that's the sex trade, the drug trade, the labor trade, and they're just abused in that system and thrown away because there's nothing to nobody keeping their eye on it. So a lot of what we do is in a lot of countries, is work with places where the kids can come and get a meal or stay and get training and education and make that leap out of the street. Um, we've got a great one with Sister Olivia right now. She's in Ghana. That woman is fearless. She walks the streets. She gets what she needs done for those girls. She feeds them. She says, we start with the food. Does she look like a mother hen or, with all her chicks around her in some of these photos? And she even, the most recent thing she did was build a patio in the middle of the slum. She built a patio in the middle of the slum. So when the kids from the streets came to eat, they'd have somewhere comfortable to sit.
Wow.
I know she's amazing,
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. And I can say that about so many of our sisters. They're just absolutely fabulous. And so the abandoned children, trying to think now, who else would I want to tell you about? Oh, yes. Female genital mutilation and sexual violence and child brides is a deep, deep part of the culture in many locations. And people have earned their living generation for generation in cutting girls in that whole process of the girl gets cut, they get sold for a couple of cows, and end up in a marriage with usually an older person. And they really have no choice on what they want to do in life. If they want to get married and have kids, hey, that's fine. But if they don't, they have to have that kind of choice. And that whole process is so embedded in the culture that economically the families of girls rely on the fact that their child can bring them a couple of cows that will be able to support the family for the next year. It's just such an interlaced and complex situation. So one of the things that we have been able to do is we were solicited by the Hilton Foundation to put together an intercommunity network of services. So a young woman caught in that situation needs lots of stuff. Her family needs the money that they would have gotten if they'd sold her. She needs the health care and the psychological care. She needs the preparation to not be cut. So she needs that whole safety network. She needs education. She needs counseling. All of those things no one group can do. So this grant is provided so that other congregations of sisters can do their piece. So we've got sisters that do education and the girl gets referred to them. Or we got people that, do the counseling, refer to them. So that type of a network of services is becoming extremely popular with some of the larger foundations, but it's extremely difficult to do.
I can imagine. It's difficult in even the local level. I think about when I was working in meal programs here in the United States, just to get groups to work together, to see that it's the small bits that you do that make up the larger network. It's kind of, again, reminds me of Frederick Ozanam saying, I want to kind of wrap the world in this net of charity, that idea of almost a spider web of a woven system that allows
Exactly.
for each group to do what it does well.
Do it well.
Yeah, so that each group can then provide the services they need so that there's a wholeness and a fullness of the things that are provided for somebody. I'm just really remarking too that, we started this conversation talking about water, and then we went to electricity, and then we talked about human trafficking, and now back to education, resources that can help somebody either get a job or see, be safe from the exploitation of others, and even to be able to lift out of cultural traditions or things that are harmful to somebody that we can move on from in some ways. It's very difficult, I think, for first world thinkers, for those of us who live in countries where electricity is on all the time, where water is running all the time, where education is free. It's hard for us to understand that if we took those safety nets away, what can happen in a world and in a culture. And I think we take those things for granted very much. And now as I'm listening to you saying, we just kind of peeled away, some things that sound so basic, water and electricity, to recognizing that those essentials of keeping communities together, healthy, safe, that impacts so much more than,
It does.
yeah, than just hydrating or making sure
No,
people can be clean.
no.
But it literally can lift somebody out of a place of exploitation.
It can lift the whole community out because that whole community benefit thing is so very real. It's not a giveaway. It is helping people reach their potential. And as you mentioned, it's like a spider web or a net. Wasn't Mom said it was like a net.
Mhm.
It is. It's like a spider web or a net, but those are too complex sometimes for people to understand. So what we use is an old-fashioned wheel with the spokes to
Mhm.
explain, here's the girl in the center, all of these services she needs the connection to, and all of them have to be connected to each other in a way that allows that wheel to move and to roll down, roll to the future. But if you're missing a spoke, is it going to limp?
Yeah, yeah. Wow,
So
that's a great image. Yeah, and you're right. It is more simple than the idea of the web, but the same sense that the focus is always going to be on the person who is vulnerable, on the community
always
that's
in the center,
vulnerable. Yeah,
always in the
always in the
center.
center of all of the other pieces. And so that, yeah, I just find that fascinating. I love the Electricians Without Borders. I mean, it's just a great idea. Who would think these things? But it's
Great
so
people,
essential, so
good people.
essential. What do you feel like are the kind of global, this might be a bigger question than you can answer, but a general global issue that if we just put so much more energy into, we could really see, the change that even within the UN, the sustainability goals, all of those would really begin to see some energy around.
I think the core is systemic, pervasive, intercultural, intergenerational poverty. Poverty. Because if you're really poor, you spend all your time and energy trying to get the basics. If there's never been any education in your family through multiple generations and there's not a school in your neighborhood, it's really hard to get the education. And you're out there selling bubble gum or something to people going through the town. So there's no time. Or you're out in the fields, picking coconuts, and there's no time to get the education. So I think lack of basic education, we can say, oh, we need basic education. However, all those other cultural things impact how you can get it. And it truly is those that have get more, those that don't have lose more. So you've got to break that cycle somehow. And that takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of energy. And it takes an organization like the Daughters of Charity to be able to have the support networks there that the women who are doing this breaking of systems have the supports that they need. That's why the prayer and the community life is so critical. And getting enough resources and the professional education they need. So one of the things we support is professional education for the sisters so that they can do it well. And be really effective. Those things are things that how you kind of climb the ladder a little bit, but it's that absolute systemic poverty from every angle of a person's life. And that builds in our prejudices. It's like every culture has culture has one group or more than one group that they're prejudiced against because you got to have someone to beat up on, you got to have someone to beat up on. I got picked up in an Uber the other day in Indiana by an Igbo gentleman. And I didn't have very far to go, but he said something and I asked him, how do you say your name? He told me, I said, oh, you're Nigerian. And he said, Igbo. I said, you're Igbo? Oh my gosh. And then I started to talk. I know this much about the Igbo culture, this much. But they're one of the downtrodden cultures. We talked for the 10 minutes, 15 minutes it took to get from the hotel to the hospital where I was going. He got out of his vehicle and he threw his arms around me because someone at least gave an indication that they understood. He said, my people here in the United States do great. we get jobs where we do beautifully. But if I were to walk back into my home country in a three-piece suit, I would be nothing. I would be nothing. I would be evil. And that sense of discrimination you can find it in almost every culture. You can find it in India in the caste system. You can find it in this country with the race systems. You can find that sense of discrimination that helps to hold people down is really a part of that systemic poverty that does not allow people to get to the next step. And I think one of the biggest things that helps people, and it may sound Pollyanna-ish, is hope. But if we don't have hope for the person that we are working with, if we do not reflect back to them the hope that we have for them and the trust that we have for them and the respect that we have for them, if they can't read that in our actions, in our face, in our words, they can't see it. You can't see your own stuff unless you look in a mirror, And so if we become the mirrors of hope for people and their encouragement, then they begin to take those steps. And of course, people help each other all the time. So one of the things we do is the sisters train the people in the local area. They help build the systems that are put in place, like the water or the clinics or whatever. And then in the water, they're the ones that do the training for hygiene. So the local people are helping the local people. We used to call it, they still call them community health workers, where people from a given situation get a little bit of help, and then they're able to help someone else. And the whole chain goes on, and people helping people help people. And everybody gets better. Everybody gets better.
Yeah, I think this is it's a great place to talk a little bit about you mentioned the work in Ethiopia, the water project there, and we do have an interview with Sister Felicek. And we'll be including that, I think, with this interview, but without giving away all of her work, because we want her to tell her own story. Do you see that those kinds of projects continue? As we said, we started with water. If we end with this idea that it is a Vatican program too, as well, correct?
It is. It's a priority for the dicastery for integral human development, which is the Laudato Si location. And we work with Tebaldo Vinciniera, who is a lovely young Roman gentleman, a family man, and he is in charge of the water projects out of that dicastery. The Vatican sent a letter out to each bishop around the world, and bishops' conference. Those bishops were allowed to write back to us and tell us where they had water problems and the names of the organizations. We cut it back. We could do 150. That's what we had money for. Did the survey, did the presentation, are gradually raising the funds and the awareness. It's the advocacy and the awareness. There's a new group in the UN, they've always got new groups, that is specifically working on this type of information, WASH in healthcare communities. We are hoping and praying and working on getting a large grant from USAID, because that's one of their priorities. So what you do when you're doing development, as you know, is you find other people who want to get the same thing done or something similar done as you do, and you partner with them. It's kind of like, you do this part, I'll do this part, and we'll share what's in the middle. So that project has been very educational. It has made people much more aware, and we're raising some of the infrastructures. It's not going to happen like that, but if we can get the infrastructure's done. Now I got to tell you my Michigan story that I told Tebaldo, who's the Roman, right? I said, Tebaldo, it's not just putting in these water systems. I said, it's like rolling a snowball downhill. And he looked at me and he went, my dear sister, what is a snowball downhill? And I said, when you make snowballs, And then you start it and you roll it down the hill and you end up with a great big snowball. He says, there are no snowballs in Rome.
Well,
So we're trying
come to Michigan and I'll show you some snowballs.
But the point is, it's not just getting water into these 150 locations. It's making the people so aware that it can be done, that those people who can only do this much toward it, or this much toward it, or this much toward it, can come together and get it done more easily everywhere. And demonstrating that it can be done is like rolling a snowball downhill. It just kind of grows. So we're in that process right now.
Yeah, that's another great image. You have wonderful images, I think, that really help us to understand the complexity in very simple ways, right? So I'm thinking about snowballs down the hill. I'm in St. Louis now, and I just moved here from Utica, New York, which had great snow, but not so much snow down here. And I'm a New Englander, so
You're
I
missing
like
it.
snow. I'm missing snow. Sister Mary Louise, I have enjoyed our conversation so much. As last time, you've just given us a wealth of information and ideas to think about, but also challenges for us to look within our own hearts and in our own value system to see what is it we really need to care about, and how can we use our resources to make the world a better place for everyone.
And I have one challenge for everybody that gets to
Yes.
listen to this, and that is be a part of it. We are one way that you can be a part of that. We 100% of every donation we get goes directly to a ministry, and you can pick and choose. You can pick if you want it for kids, if you want it for water, if you want it for healthcare. You can pick what country you're interested in, or you can just say, put it where it's most needed. But know that whoever is the beneficiary of that, the results of that money, that person will be praying for you. That person will be saying, thank you, benefactor. They'll never know your name, but not until we get to heaven, I guess. But it is a very real connection that literally changes people's lives. And how many of us can say we can change people's lives with a stroke of a pen? Well, actually, all of us, actually, all of us, we can change people's lives with the stroke of a pen.
Yeah.
And my office is very pleased to be a bridge for that. But there are other groups that bridge that also. And so just remember that, find someone you can trust that's going to be able to make the connection between you and what you want to see done in the world.
Thank you so much. And we will make sure that all the links to how to reach you and how to contact the Daughters of Charity International Project Services are available to everyone who's listening. And we just really encourage everyone to take the challenge that Sister Mary Louise has given us. And again, I thank you so much, and know that we are praying for all of your works and for all of you, for all that you do in your service to those who are poor and vulnerable. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Elizabeth. It's been a pleasure.